Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're taking a look at the new Utopia deck that got revealed just a couple of days ago. Really fun weekend, kind of, or at least leading up into it for reveals. We get the new Yummy archetype, and then right after we get the Utopia support revealed for Duelist Advance. It's really hype. I really think this deck is looking pretty interesting. I think it actually could be a real deck going forward, which is the most you could say for this deck in a long time. It's gotten support in the past. It's kind of flopped overall, and so it's nice to finally see a deck that that has struggled to kind of break through, potentially to have like finally the opportunity to do so. So what are we looking at? This is my first iteration build. It's important to note that it is a first iteration build and it's not necessarily, everything going forward. And we might make some changes as we go forward. You almost definitely will. But one thing I'll say is from a lot of lists I've seen so far, we've seen a lot of lists that kind of just go so heavy in engine, are so excited to show off the wombo combos, but we know how Yu-Gi-Oh is in 2025. You just cannot play a deck with 10 non-engine slots. You just can't get away with it. And so here I'm trying to show off a list that actually has room for 16, almost 17 non-engine if you include called. That way you can actually go second in a respectable capacity, right? I've got 13 hand traps plus 3 droplet. Feel like a deck, with like Fool Loss and stuff really enjoys having stuff like droplet to help break a board in those types of matchups. So yeah, this is kind of where I landed. Let's go through it one by one. I'll give you a brief description here. And I actually want to show off 2 combos on the back half of this video. One simple combo that just shows the overall power of Dodo Warrior, as well as a 1-card combo from Go 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 Goblinberg, just to show off those 2 individual cards and why they're such phenomenal starters going forward. All right, so let's get into it for the main deck here. Starting off, obviously, you have 3 copies of Dodo Warrior, 3 copies of Go 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 Goblinberg, 2 copies each, 2 copies of Gaga Gunbar Knight, 1 copy of Zubaba Knight. Jesus, trying my best with the names. 1 ZS Ascended Sage. This is for specific lines where you need to go through the rank up. Utopic Onomatopoeia. This card is very important as a one of, just because it is every single name. This card is always treated as a Zubababa, Gagaga, Go, and Dodo card. So if you ever need a search off of any of these, he is always an automatic search there and can just pull their names out of the hand if they are awkwardly in there. So I like that. You have Zubababa, Bancho, Gagaga, Coat. I've seen this card played as a 3 of, even in some instances. I think he's a fine extender. I just don't think he's like out of this world good. I could see a world where you play 2. I just don't like more than 3. He's just like not a starter, plain and simple. And so I don't really like him at more. And he's a decent extender, but he's not like an out of this world one. So I just don't see a world where I play more than 2, maybe 2 for scenarios where you just want to go through a second one, but 1 is fine for me. Dodo Dwarf Go-Go Glove. This is a really interesting one. I don't love this card here, because Go-Go-Go Goblinberg has to special summon a Go-Go-Go monster that is not warrior. So unfortunately, you cannot just, you can't just summon this guy from the deck because he is warrior, unfortunately. So this is one awkward piece, and there's a weird thing with this deck where the way some of the cards specifically function, it wants you to make bad deck building decisions, and that's going to be part of the trickiness of this deck, is trying to meet in the middle, have enough decisions that the deck remains consistent enough without having to succeed too much to some of these things that this deck is trying to force you to do, like Goblinberg wanting to special summon Dodo Dwarf Go Glove out of the deck. Maybe he becomes a 2 of because you want to dump him off of Dodo Warrior, but you also want to be able to special summon him off of Go Goblinberg in the same turn. So you might end up playing 2 of this guy going forward, even though he is pretty much a brick. He's not great. So yeah. And then 1 ZW Pegasus Twin Saber. This is another deck building concession. I hate this card. This card and Double or Nothing are the 2 worst bricks in the deck. You hate drawing them, but it does allow you to raise the ceiling of your deck just slightly. I would even say even a little bit more than slightly, like a decent little bit. And then you get to consistency pieces with the spells. 3 Onomatopoeia. I don't play Onomata pickup in this deck. You already lose hard enough to Droll, and by playing pickup, you like literally scoop to Droll. At least if you resolve this card and you get Drolled, you can still make potentially 2 rank 4s and pass, or even more. And I just think not being able to lock yourself under Droll without being able to do literally anything is definitely a leg up in that scenario. I also have 7th Tachyon here. This is a card that I have not seen as much hype for this deck, but I actually kind of like this card because this card helps mitigate kind of the weakness of ZW and Double or Nothing as huge bricks. Like these are legit garnets. Drawing these cards turns off certain parts of your engine entirely, just like drawing garnet used to. And so 7th Tachyon, being able to search a card and then put these back in the deck could actually be super, super clutch. Overall, it's actually better than discarding because this deck doesn't make that much value out of graveyard stuff. So I actually think the put back you pay for 7 Tachyon is actually better than discarding off of Para, and that's very rarely the case because so many decks have like graveyard stuff going on. But yeah, that's something I have something going on here. But of course, this takes 2 more probably extra deck slots you have to put in for it. But I do think it's still a really good consistency card, all things considered. You also have Rhoda in here. This searches all of the new cards except for Dodo Warrior, which is great. It's really good. You can get starter, extender, all that stuff. You really get good stuff here. The 1 rank up spell, this is what helps you make your Dragonar, which is really powerful. He's really your win condition. You're trying to make him with 4 materials because when you do, he's summoning 2 broken number monsters from your extra deck. Double or Nothing. Utopia double is really strong. It just is. Summoning any Utopia extra deck monster out is really strong. The problem is you have to play Double or Nothing to do it, and you have to not draw Double or Nothing to do it. So keep that in mind. It's a hard brick. It's a garnet. Called by to protect your plays, and then generic hand trap / forbidden droplet lineup. This just is what it is. I would rather play this deck lowering the ceiling a little bit without pushing it to its ultimate max turn 1 end board potential, while still being able to have 16, 17 non-engine slots, so that way we can go second and feel pretty good about it. I think that's going to be something really important, and I think the improvement on the main deck monsters to actually have multiple 1-card combos and enough starters that like you can feel pretty confident in that role in terms of consistency, to where we can cut enough other cards that, like, yes, they're decent cards. Yes, they can help you play, but they're just not fully necessary anymore. I'd rather make the concession there and get us to 16, 17 non-engine. I just really would. As there's 2 main problems for me. And before we jump to the extra, I want to mention the 2 things that I kind of touched on the first one, but there's 2 big ones to me. The first one is consistency, right? Are the new cards good enough to where we can cut enough of some of the old cards? Like in the past, we played 3 Ascended Sage and 3 of the other ZS Sage, just because they were level 4s that jumped on the board when they were used as material for Utopias. They got you a free card and helped you continue playing. Those cards are outclassed now. Now, ZS Ascended Sage plays a very important role because it gets you a rank up, and that's very important to help you get to Dragonar in certain lines by getting the Utopia Force rank up card. But outside of him, it's really, really not that important. And so being able to like upgrade those for just your Dodo Warrior, we'll show off why he's so crazy with the combo. And then the Go Goblinberg are just such huge upgrades on the ability for this deck to not only play, but play through interaction. And we'll see that as well. So the first one is just like, can we cut enough of the old cards to be able to have enough room for non-engine to feel confident going second? Secondly, this deck is really going to entice you to play a lot of bad cards to raise the ceiling of the deck. Where is that perfect in-between sweet spot of, we're going to cut some of these bad cards because, yes, that ceiling is nice, but at the cost of us bricking more and more often, drawing more and more dead cards. We want to draw less of those, meet in the middle of like where that perfect in-between is of like, okay, we still feel good about the power of the deck. We don't feel like we're struggling and we're just like going first and people are breaking our boards no problem. But also, we're able to cut enough of those slots, fit more non-engine, fit maybe even better more engine in the main deck to have more consistency, more ability to play through interaction, and go from there. That to me is the two biggest questions for this deck because this deck really wants to entice you to play bad cards all over the place. I've thought about cutting the Pegasus Twin Saber. I've thought about cutting the Double or Nothing. Everything else here feels pretty necessary for the most part. Um, and I feel like I'm on an even more thin list than other lists I've seen online so far. And I get it. Some of those lists online so far, on the first couple days of it coming out, are going to want to show off more of the power of the deck, more so than the most competitive list you can build. Duel in and duel out. And I feel like this is closer to that. All right, into the X trick though. Gaga Girl. She searches any Gaga, Onomot, or Exceed card from your deck to your hand. It's really good. There's a good amount of targets you can do there. Utopia 39, Utopia Double. This card's very important. This card can get you right up into a Dragonar or even your Utopia Ray. It's quite good. You get pretty good value off of just a rank 4 as long as you didn't draw Double or Nothing. That's obviously the trade-off there is that you have to play a god-awful brick in that, but as long as that's fine. Utopia Rising, this to me is a good follow-up card. When you've already gone through some of your other stuff turn 1, this card allows you to basically just be in a position where if you can just make a rank 4, you can get 2 rank 4s back, potentially even summon one that can then do something again. But even if not, potentially go into a F-Zero Draco Future or Draco Future. Oh man, Utopic Draco. What I can't. I hate how their names are all the same. They're so hard to remember. But the guy who's a monster negate, can't be targeted, all that stuff. He's pretty good. In a simplified board state, after the duel's been going back and forth, if you are resolving getting into him, I'm assuming you're probably winning the duel from that position. Regular Utopia, this actually does matter because sometimes going from double into Utopia and then also dropping Utopia Ray on top of him allows you to get 4 materials on your Dragonar, which then allows you to resolve Dragonar twice because Dragonar needs to attach 2 materials each time you use him, and he's a quick effect. So you can do him once on your turn, once on your opponent's turn, get 2 to 3 interactions just from that, and that's why Dragonar is your main win condition. Gaga Magician. I don't know if there's necessarily a big reason for you to play Gaga Magician plus Utopia Rising. I guess the main reason would just be he is a Gaga name. So even if you go through Gaga Girl, this would still allow you to use Gambara Knight later in the duel because it has to reveal a Gaga monster in extra deck. So he would still be in there. So I guess maybe for that. But yeah, he's fine. He just reborns an Exceed monster in grave. So that way you can kind of go into Draco Future stuff. Again, Dragonar, this card's phenomenal. Quick effect, detach 2 to summon a number monster from between 1 and 100 from the extra deck. No material, but you have stuff like Hope Harbinger. This is why you don't need material. It's just a spell negate regardless, so you can still get pretty good interactions there. Utopia Leo Ray, this is an interesting card for me because this is the card that forces you to play ZW Pegasus Twin Saber. I don't want to play it, but just because that card it makes this card double interaction, makes it kind of enticing. So it's a weird one. I don't want to play the brick because it's a hard brick. You really want that card in the deck. But it does make it so that you're summoning 2 interactions instead of just 1, which is, meaningful. You have ZS Utopic Sage. This card's cool. This is so even if you don't open up your 1 copy of Ascended Sage, that means just any ability to make a rank 4, this guy can summon him out of the deck. And then if you're able to use him for any rank Utopia Exceed, I think specifically, he'll search you for the rank up. So then you can go right up into Dragonar from there, which is solid. Hope Harbinger doesn't even need a material to negate a spell. Love that. There's not too many monsters like that. You also have Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord in here. This card does detach to negate a monster effect, but the important thing with this one is that if you make him after going up through your Utopia Force says when you summon an Exceed monster from the effect of a Utopia, basically, this card can attach to the monster you summoned. So when you summon him on the opponent's turn, this card can just immediately jump on to Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, boom, monster negate live, which is pretty good. Then you get Zeus, basic, Typhon, basic, and then I have Giant Hand and Star Seraph Sentry. These are just so that way your 7th Tachyon can search either a level 4 Earth or a level 4 Light. Those are the main targets you're searching here, right? Goblinberg, Gaga, Gambara Knight, etc. Just getting a light or an Earth. They're all lights or Earths, basically. So just picking your poison there is pretty crucial. So yeah, the one downside of 7 Tachyon, by the way, is that it doesn't search your best engine card, Dodo Dodo Warrior. There's a bunch of other options here in the side deck here that I can run through real quick. I don't have any Ryziel stuff here, but it's the best rank 4 engine in the game. Obviously, it'll lock you out of going to stuff like Dragonar, but if you try and play with the rest of your hand first and save these for last, you can potentially make Dragonar and then still go into these afterwards. They're still generically incredible. Rank 4 engine. Gaga Hope Tactics. I didn't have this or the Counter Trap in the deck. I thought about it. I could see maybe siding the Unbreakable Bear post side when you know you're going first. But outside of that, it just felt like if I'm making Gaga Gaga Girl, I'm like never searching this card because she's almost assuredly one of the early exceeds you're making, which is tough. Onomatopico, consistency card, decided on Tachyon over it, but again, you could definitely get there. Change Tactics is really interesting because this card is searchable off of Gaga Gaga Girl. This card just draws you a card every time you make a Utopia Exceed. So the idea would be like if you make Gaga Gaga Girl with just a standard line and you're like searching another card that's going to like get you to another rank 4, you make Utopia Double. Utopia Double makes you regular Utopia. Regular Utopia goes into Utopia Ray, and you link up into Utopia Dragonar. Dragonar summons Leo Utopia Ray. That is 5 Utopia monsters. And so this card is just going to draw you 5 cards, basically. So it's possible, because this card's so searchable now, you could play a 1 of this. And it's not even the worst brick in the world going first specifically, because if you just activate this, make 1 rank 4, even if it's just like Utopia, draw 1 card, Utopia Ray, draw a 2nd card. If you have ways to continue on up, like there are other ways. You could potentially make room for Utopia Prime, et cetera, and actually just get like multiple draws. And again, with 17 on engine, those draws are actually much more impactful if we can build the deck like this. So this card's kind of intriguing to me. You have the Full Armored Exceed package. This one is a very interesting one. Because our deck just makes rank 4s, it's one of those things kind of like Sharks, where when you make Bahamut, attempt to summon Toad, and it gets negated, you can still just fall back on a Dark Knight Lancer, which is 1 interaction through a hand trap, and that's pretty good. Again, you're going to have to concede adding extra bricks to your deck. So who wants to do that? Nobody. But it does allow you to play through stuff if you're not drawing too many of those bricks. So it's an interesting package. Not sure if it'll make it in, but it's an Exceed deck. So like you have to consider it. Dominus Purge is very interesting as well. Doesn't really conflict with anything in the main deck for the most part. Like obviously generic cards like Ash it kind of conflicts with. But Ash is really the only thing it conflicts with in the main deck. The main thing in the extra it conflicts with, and it's not much, is like Typhon, which is utility. But Gaga Gaga Girl, of course, had to be a dark Exceed. And to be fair, you don't have to go through her in every combo, but it does lock her out, and she is what I've found is like one of the better ones to go through. So that's going to be an interesting piece there if this card makes the cut or not in the main deck. Because as you can see at the end of my non-engine slots, I'm getting into kind of the weenie hand traps. So could be better than those. Traptrix Rafflesia. This is a deck that I anticipate will struggle with Droll and will struggle with Nib. So I like this potentially. This and 1 Digger's Trap Hole. The only problem with this is that this card has no way to like actively detach a material. It's always reactively. So if you make this card to protect your plays with one of your guys that searches you, like the ability to extend when they're detached, you can't do anything until your opponent does something. So you have to open a really strong hand, which makes me want to rely on this a little bit less. Not that it's unplayable, but it's just a little bit worse that your guys have to be detached to get further follow-up. Baguska, sure. If you get Fool Lost or whatever, sometimes just Baguska or Dweller is the answer there. But if you know the matchup and you know that they're not going to kill you through these types of things, that's pretty good. And then even Lightning. Like, Lightning's not great, but when you're already on a deck that probably plays Utopia anyway, Lightning actually could be a pretty important card that just lets you get out of certain scenarios. So I don't hate that either. There's definitely some potential room for stuff like that. So that is most of the stuff that I have there, just in terms of the deck build. Feel free to let me know down below if there's any changes you would suggest, at least on early looks. I mean, listen, we're like 3 days in, so obviously we're doing our best with what we know so far, but feel like it's a pretty solid start. All right, anyway, Let's show off Dodo Dodo Warrior. This is why this card is so strong. I want you to look at this kind of from the mindset of how strong is this card. Let's say your opponent has Ash and Imperm, literally the two most common like cards in the game as far as being main decked, basically. So let's say your opponent has Ash and Imperm. You activate him. He sends as cost, so can't be ashed on this. Then summons himself. Again, doesn't do anything on field, really, so no reason to imperm this. We're going to use Dodo Dodo Warrior. Opponent still can't interact with that, Nash and imperm. And basically, without normal summon, this card gives you a rank 4 uninteractable by Ash and imperm. And so from here, you get to Gaga Girl. You could actually make a couple different rank 4s. Utopia Double. You could make the ZS, Utopic Sage, whatever. But regardless, even if we go like Gaga Girl, and let's say, for instance, you get impermed here, right? You are still detaching as cost your Dodo Dodo Warrior. So even if she gets impermed, you can now Dodo Dodo Warrior. And even if he gets ashed, and let's say we have nothing else, I still just think the value there is so win. It's such a strong win. Like you were just saying, theoretically, we just used one card from hand, did not normal summon, and forced 2 hand traps out. And even at the end of all of that, we ended up with a rank 4 on field. So if you play the Armored Exceed package, you can go right into that. If you're going second, you could potentially go into a Zeus line, still get into a Zeus and break a board through 2 hand traps. Like, that's what's so strong about this card. To me, this is the best new card they got entirely, just all together. Because he does everything he does without even normal summoning. And then look at this. Like, if you are resolving, or let's say they only had one of Ash either or imperm, this card beats one of them by itself. Because even if they stop Gaga Girl, you're getting Gaga Gambara Knight, and you are going to continue to play from there. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. If they stop, because this is what I searched off of the girl. So if they stop the girl, you actually can search the other new Zubababa card, which is your normal summon, and he is a 1 card rank 4 on normal summon. And you would just go from there and immediately get to another rank 4 and continue playing. So really, really, really strong. I think this card will cause problems for decks that don't open 2 hand traps bare minimum. And even if they do, all they need is one other engine card, and they're like beating that anyway. Which is crazy. So that just shows off the basic power of Dodo Dodo Warrior. Next up, we'll show off Go 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 Goblinberg. He's your main normal summon now. He's basically Tour Guide with an extra search later on. So he's really good, but he does have a harsher lock than Tour Guide. So anyway, you're normal summoning him. And yeah, you'll see at the end where we kind of just end on like a kind of generic basis of like what you could go in from there, because I just don't have the perfect list yet. We're still early on. We're going to summon out the Dodo Dwarf Go Go Glove. We're going to make ZS Sage, which is cool. The cool thing about ZS Sage is that he does detach 2 materials, not just 1. So if you do make him with 2 of the new cards, you could potentially search 2 after that, and even chain block the more important one. So we're going to summon out ZS Ascended Sage. On detach, we're searching off of Go Go Goblinberg to get the best card in the deck, Dodo Dodo Warrior. We're going to do the same thing we just saw with him. We're going to go ahead and make Utopia double from this point. We're going to go ahead and search the new rank up, because we use ZS Sage as material. Then we're going to use Utopia Double to grab Double or Nothing and rank up straight into regular Utopia. This is important because we want 4 materials on Dragonar, which we mentioned earlier. Dodo the Warrior, when on detach, can search your Zubaba Bancho Gaga Coat. We're going to make Dragonar. He's going to summon Leo Utopia Ray. We're going to get a material on him because we need to detach to get your ZW Twin Saber, and then boom, he's a walking impermanence plus a negate for any monster on field. That's really good value there. Keep in mind, we still have 2 materials on Dragonar, so on the opponent's turn, we're going to be able to detach 2 more to summon something like Hope Harbinger. You could go for Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord as well, because this card just triggers Engrave when an Exceed is summoned by the effect of a Utopia, so it's going to come back and just make the Galaxy Eyes a monster negate as well if you want, once you know the matchup and what matters most. I would think you'd want Hope Harbinger just because you don't want to get crushed by board breakers, because this card only answers monsters. But yeah, not to mention, we still have a rank 4 body on field. We still have another level 4 body on field, and we never used this extender. So of course, that also shows that we could potentially make Utopic Draco Future. We could potentially make the new other Exceed that came out. That's kind of like a monster steal on the opponent's turn. And this is all off of 1 card. So I think there's still value. And again, you could even just make a rank 4. You can make Dweller. You can make you wouldn't make Big Goose on a board like this. You turn off everything else, but you can make Dweller on top of this board. You can make Giant Hand for a bonus imperm if you want, whatever. Or you can make use of both rank 4s, right? So there's really cool stuff there. There's even other random things where you can make, what do we not use here? We use Gaga Girl. You can make Gaga Magician and just reborn one of the rank 4s engrave, make a Utopic whatever, and then still have a rank 4 left over. You could do so much and then go into the Armored Exceed package, right? Like you could end on 5-6 interruptions here. It just depends on where you're willing to make those deck building concessions. So that way you're playing enough bricks to increase the power level to the level you want. I'm okay being a little bit lower and playing the deck a little bit more mid-rangey without being like this Quambo combo end on the craziest board possible, but that's just me. So there you go. Hopefully it's a good showcase, at least to show you off like where I think the deck is right now, because I really do think it's interesting. I really think this deck has real potential. It's kind of worse Ryziel, but I think it has more options than Ryziel and even a higher ceiling than Ryziel. So while still being like kind of similar to Ryziel and just how well it's going to play through interaction and still get you value through stuff. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where people go with it. There's a ton of options here. Sky's the limit. That's kind of where I'm at. So there you go. I'm out of here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. I know this video ran kind of long, but there's kind of a lot of specific things to talk about with this deck if you want to. We could really get really deep on this one, but I'm very excited to see where like OCG players start. If this deck does actually see some success in the OCG, I'm very excited to see like how they approach it and what early iterations of this deck look like. Because I feel like it'll help give us just like an early direction here. But I'm out of here. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one down the line. Super early deck profiles, theory talking, all that stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.